Hello everyone, I hope all of you will be fine. Welcome to BioXploredia. Today we are going to discuss about our new topic, biocomposting. Here are the contents of biocomposting. First we will discuss about introduction to compost, why there is importance of biocomposting, some benefits of biocomposting. Then we will discuss uses, different ways of making a compost, phases, methods of composting, and factors affecting the composting process. And then at last we will discuss about types of composting. Introduction to composting process. So what is composting process? Composting is a process according to the Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary. Composting is defined as any organic matter which is derived by the process of mixture of decayed organic matter which is added to soil to improve the growth of plants. And here you can see the example of composting process. It looks like soil material. And composting is the process, it is the decomposition of organic matter by a mixture of microbial population in a moist, warm, aerobic environment. So it is called composting, and this product is called compost product. Why composting is important, or why we carry composting? One of the important object of composting is it saves money, and it also convert waste to energy, and it is also important for your home. You have to use less and pay as you throw town trash bags by keeping food out of your bag, and use less leaf bags for the yard waste. And second important reason is it is important for your town also, because you have less trash pickup, lower trucking, trash disposal cost, and it save money for roads, sidewalk, parks, snow removal, etc. Another important reason is it is important for your garden also, because you have to buy less synthetic chemical fertilizers which are expensive also, and you need to buy those chemical fertilizers. So when you use biocompost, so you have less synthetic chemical fertilizer. And it is also important for your apartment building also, less costly trash, overflowing stinky dumpster, and noisy pickups. Here is the composition of compost, nutrient composition. There are organic matter 70%, pH should be around 7.5 of this compost, and organic carbon should be 33.11%, nitrogen should be there, phosphorus, potassium, and some trace elements must also be present in the compost. Here are some benefits of compost process, that why we want to compost, or why we want to convert organic matter into a compost product. One of the important benefit of composting, it can improve the physical structure of the soil. It can enrich the soil with microorganisms. Healthy microorganisms can be added to the soil, which can enrich the soil. And microbial activity in worm casting is 10 to 20 times higher than in the soil in organic matter that the worm ingests. And it can also attract the deep burrowing earthworms which are already present in the soil. It can also improve the water holding capacity. And another important sector of the compost process which benefit the plant growth also, it enhances the germination, it enhances the plant growth and the crop yield also, and it can improve the root growth and the root structure. It can also enriches the soil with microorganism. It helps garden plants and agro crops to grow naturally also. Here are some economic benefits of the composting process, like waste can be converted, which reduces waste flow to the landfill. Another important benefit is the elimination of bio-waste from the waste stream, which reduces contamination of other recyclables collected in a single bin. and it can also create low skill jobs at the rural level. It can also decrease the capital investment, and relatively simple technologies can be used in the composting process, and it can save money in terms of reducing the use of synthetic fertilizers also. Other benefits of the composting in the environmental point of view, that it can keep hygienic and pollution free the environment, it can reduce the amount of waste going to the landfill, and it can produce less greenhouse gases emissions such as methane compared to the synthetic fertilizers. Here are some uses of compost. Compost is generally recommended as an additive to the soil, which supplying humus and nutrients, and it can also provide a rich growing medium or a porous absorbent material that hold moisture and soluble material, providing the support and nutrients in which plant can be flourish, although it is rarely used alone. And composting can be tilled directly into the soil or growing medium to boost the level of organic matter and the overall fertility of the soil. And composting that is ready to be used as an additive is dark brown or even black with an earthy smell. Another important benefit of our use of composting is that composting can destroy pathogens or unwanted seeds also, and unwanted living plants or weeds can be discouraged by covering with the mulch compost. So these are some of the uses of compost process. Here are some different ways of making a compost. There is traditional method, another method is the rapid method, and the third method is bio-enriched method. So what is traditional method? In traditional method, composting is carried out for 3 to 4 months before farm waste are fully decomposed, and it is ready to use as a compost fertilizer. And the second method is the rapid method, in which with the aid of fungus activator trichoderma or xenom is added. And the third method is the bio-enriched method. In this method, both fungus activator and nitrogen fixing bacteria are added to enrich and to stimulate the biocomposting process. So these are the three methods in which we can make. There are many other methods also, but we have just selected three methods: traditional method, rapid method, and bio-enriched method. So what we can compost and what we cannot compost, or what we shouldn't compost. We should compost some green parts like quick to rot, and they provide important nitrogen and moisture content, like vegetable scraps, fruit scraps, tea bags, coffee grounds, and filter paper, seaweed, used hops, and old flowers, and nettles, and grass cuttings, etc. can be used as a green things which can be used for the biocomposting process. And the second important elements are the brown composting materials which can be used, like eggshell can be used, peanut shell can be used, corn cobs or stalks, and egg and cereal boxes can be used, like garden prunings, etc. can be used as a brown materials. And what material we should not decompose? We should not include some of the material like meat and dairy products, cooking oil, rice, bread products, walnut, diseased plant, sawdust, heavily coated or printed paper, etc. Here is the method or process of composting, how we can make composting, how we can perform composting process, and we can make the compost product. Like different materials can be used material for the composting, like some ingredients with the higher carbon content, like dry straw type materials such as cereal straw, autumn leaves, sawdust, and wood chips. And some paper and cardboard can be used as a high carbon content ingredient materials. And some ingredients with the higher nitrogen content, like green plant material, fresh such as crop residues, grass clippings, weeds, animal manures, and choose vegetarian horse manure, cow manure, etc. Also, and fruits and vegetable trimmings can be used, seaweeds can be used, and we can also use coffee grounds as in higher nitrogen content materials. Method or process of composting, like mechanism of composting, is a biochemical process in which aerobic and anaerobic microorganisms decomposes organic matter into valuable manure called compost. Here are some of the phases, three phases of composting process. Composting process is divided into three phases: mesophilic, thermophilic, and maturation phase. So initially, composting process is carried out by mesophilic microorganisms, which rapidly break down the soluble, readily degradable compounds. And then as the temperature rises above 40 C, the mesophilics are replaced by thermophilic microorganisms, and thermophilic phase start, and at temperatures of 55 C and above, many microorganisms that are human or plant pathogens are destroyed. And during the thermophilic phase, high temperatures accelerate the breakdown of proteins, fats, and complex carbohydrates like cellulose and hemicellulose, and the major structure molecules in the plants. And then after thermophilic phase, temperature gradually decreases and mesophilic microorganisms again take over for the final phase of curing or maturation of the remaining organic matter. So three phases are performed during the composting process. The first phase is the mesophilic phase, the second one is the thermophilic phase, and the third one, the last one, is again the mesophilic phase. Now we have to discuss about the composting process, that how we can make compost. Initially, the first step is the collection and preparation of the feedstock. Raw organic matter that is being turned into compost is called the feedstock. It is important to use a variety of materials, since nutrient content of compost made from a single material is unlikely to balance or have a carbon to nitrogen ratio which is favorable to the decomposing organisms. So we have to choose the proper material for the composting product, and the single most important ingredient in compost is the animal manure, and ingredients such as straw, cotton, trash, sawdust, and even wood chips provide a substrate for the cellulose eating microorganisms for its functioning. So we can utilize different materials in composting process, and it is important to decrease the particle size so that the surface area for microorganisms to consume and accelerate decomposition is increased, and finally minerals can be added to the pile to balance the essential plant nutrients. So this is the first important step in which you have to select the preparation of the feedstock material. You have to select wisely because you have to avoid such kind of material which you do not need in the composting process, which can spoil your compost. Another important step is the compost area preparation or selection. When you do in the open area, so you have to choose a shaded and well drained area for the composting process. You can also do this composting process inside the bin also. Another important step is the forming the piles of compost. Aerobic composting method require that the feedstock receive adequate air and moisture, and it must be able to absorb the adequate moisture, and different feedstocks can be used and they can be layered to alternate dry and moist material. Like initially you have to add some dry material and then moist material and then some dry kind of material. So it should be, dry material should be on top, on the bottom, on the top, in the outer parts of the pile. And as the pile is turned, the compost becomes more homogeneous and the different layers less distinct. In this diagram, you can see this is just general diagram of a compost pile. Another important step is to maintain the optimum conditions for the composting process, and the most critical conditions are aeration, moisture, and temperature. And most feedstock contains some decomposition organisms, like introducing microorganisms can accelerate the decomposition process. Like you can add some fungus, you can add some identified bacterial strains to the compost. And the compost must be moist, but it must not waterlog. And when you perform this composting process in the open area, so there is chance that sometime there will be rain, sometime there will be high temperature, sometime there will be low temperature. So you have to keep these things in mind. So during rainy season, compost pile may need to be covered to keep them from becoming waterlogged. And some methods turn the compost in 14 to 21 days, and turning every week to 10 days will usually produce finished compost in 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the temperature. Here are some parameters which you can use in the composting process, like carbon to nitrogen ratio should be 30 to 1, and ideal moisture should be 50 to 60%. If you increase the moisture content, so it will become waterlogged and it will spoil the compost. And pH should be from 6 to 8, and temperature for the thermophilic range should be 55 to 75 C, and oxygen availability must be from 5 to 15%. The final important step is the finished compost or the maturation of the compost. Like finished compost should be cooled back down to the ambient temperature, and it should be dark with the rich earthy smell, and the texture should be fairly loose and homogeneous with the ingredients thoroughly decomposed. You can see in this figure the compost is thoroughly mixed and homogeneously mixed. And after the pile has cooked or roasted, you can spread the compost into the cropping area, or you can also spread this compost in the open area. You can make it dry, and then you can use it in the later stages. And loading rate depends on the existing soil nutrient level also, and the soil structure being grown and the previous crop grown. Unlike with the synthetic fertilizers or the raw manure, there is little chance that compost will burn the crops. So there is more chances of burning of the crops with the synthetic fertilizers. Here are different types of the composting process, like biodung composting, compost tea, vermicomposting, bokashi composting, and industrial composting system. So what is biodung composting? It includes partial aerobic and anaerobic process, and generally it is applied as a prerequisite to vermicomposting process because biodung method can destroy parasites, pests, and viable seeds of weeds due to the increased temperature 65 to 75 C in the pile. And the pile can be turned over with the material 1 or 2 times after 30 days, and then it's ready for the vermicomposting. Another type of the composting is the compost tea. It is the liquid suspension made by mixing compost in water, and it is called compost tea, and it is used as a biofertilizer. And liquid is sprayed over the non-edible parts of the plants to reduce the pathogenic fungi. Third important type of the composting is the vermicomposting. In vermicomposting, we use different worms, and this vermicomposting is also called V-compost, vermicast, or worm manure. Here you can see in this diagram, in compost you can see different worms, and vermicompost is the end product of the breakdown of organic matter by worms. The steps to make vermicomposting are presented here. Like you have to take a small wooden box or dig a small pit, then you have to spread a net on your box, and also you have to spread 1 or 2 cm thick layer of the sand and then you have to put some kitchen waste such as peel of the fruits, etc., to cover the sand. Then in the next step, you have to use green leaves to cover over the sand. After that, sprinkle some water to make this layer wet, and buy some red worms and put them in your pit, and give them vegetable and fruit waste as a food, and add 3 to 4 weeks. After 3 to 4 weeks, you will see that loose side like material in the pit, and after that remove the material from the box and dry it in the sun, and then use it as a manure. So this is called vermicomposting process. Another important type of composting is the bokashi composting, and it is a method of intensive composting, and it is called bokashi composting, in which you use already known microorganisms which are called effective microorganisms. So bokashi is a Japanese term which is meaning fermented organic matter, and it is often referred to as a type of composting, but it is actually an anaerobic fermentation process which results in much different end product than the product produced by the composting process. And unlike conventional composting, in bokashi system you use different microorganisms which are called effective microorganisms, which are already known microorganisms, especially the fungus, and this fungus is added to the organic waste and stored in a bokashi bin. And bokashi composting provides the idea and the ideal way to compost the indoor method, and it is quick, simple and odor free, and it allows all food waste to be composted. And it is a great way of turning food scraps into plant ready nutrients, and keeping waste out of the landfill and recycling at the home. Here in this diagram you can see different steps, like you have to add food waste to the bucket at 2 to 3 cm deep, and then you have to evenly sprinkle a handful of bokashi. Bokashi contain the effective microorganisms, and you have to evenly sprinkle a handful of bokashi over the top of the waste material, and then be sure to seal the lid and drainage plug. And after that, when the bucket is full, and add an extra handful of bokashi and seal up for 7 to 10 days, and drain the liquid regularly, and you can see after few days a homogeneous material, compost material, will be prepared. Then there are industrial composting system also, which are carried carried at the large scale, like industrial scale composting in the form of the large vessels, aeratic static pile, and anaerobic digestion in most Western countries. And mechanical biological treatment is performed, like mechanical sorting of the mixed waste stream combined with the anaerobic digestion, or in vessel composting. And this kind of composting is used in the developed countries due to the regulations, because they know how to regulate the conditions, and if the biodegradable material is treated before adding to landfill, its effect of global warming is reduced by the reduced production of methane. Composting in the Pakistan, the Danish Carbon Fund DCF Lahore Composting Facility project is the first of its kind in Pakistan, and it is bringing composting technology to a country where the common practice is by open dumping of waste, as there are no landfill. And this project is the first public-private partnership project in Pakistan on a large scale in the area of municipal solid waste management, MSW. An environment friendly product is also produced, and the product is called Zameen Dost product, which is produced through employing the state of art composting technology, which ensures the decomposition of organic matter in controlled environment where the moisture, oxygen and temperature level of the product are closely monitored to ensure the harmonized decomposition of organic matter without emitting any greenhouse gases into the environment. A pilot recycling and composting project was also carried out in Pakistani cities like UN Habitat Uniscape have launched a solid waste management pilot project in the cities of Karachi, Rawalpindi, Islamabad, Pakistan, and UN Habitat and the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and Pacific have launched a solid waste management pilot project in the cities of Karachi, Rawalpindi, Islamabad, and Pakistan. In June 19, 2015, in Karachi, farmers in Sindh who produce 90% of the Pakistan banana and have traditionally burned the waste produced by the crop are now turning it into compost, a valuable resource to increase the crop production. Thanks for watching this video. If you have any question or comment, please comment in the comment section below. I hope this video is helpful for you. If you are new to this channel, please subscribe this channel. Thank you and see you.